go. This is from Justin C. He says, did the Chargers hire Kellen Moore because they know he would take a low salary for an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL? Well, when they fire Staley, I'm sick of these first-timer head coaches. It wouldn't surprise.
Well, Kellen Moore had accomplished a lot in Dallas. They'd been beset by injuries. Last year, I think, was a bit of an aberration. The year prior, Dak Prescott put up some really good numbers, and he had suffered a really bad injury. Last year, the Cowboys' offensive line was just shredded. I mean, they lost their left tackle, their right tackle, one of their guards, their center had to leave football. They just weren't the same football team. I guess to a degree, maybe he was forced out by Mike McCarthy, who I think, came to the conclusion, I want to run what I want to run and let me call the plays rather than him. That being said, this guy had done some really good things with Dak Prescott. So I don't think there's any phony baloney here. I think this guy's on a fast track. He's interviewed for college jobs. He's interviewed for a couple NFL jobs. So I wouldn't condemn him yet. Now, he goes in and he works for Brandon Staley. Staley's turned the offense over to him. And Brandon Staley's run, I don't think they've had guys with this kind of creative juice. And he walks into a good situation. I mean, you got Justin Herbert, and you got 3 pretty good wide receivers. You got a pass-catching tight end. You got Austin Eckler, and you got the quarterback. And you got a rebuilt offensive line where they've spent all these resources to get number 1 draft picks to play up front. I just think offensively they're going to be dynamic. So I'm not critiquing Kellen Moore because I do think there is a track record. He's been on a faster track to become somebody's head coach. But going to another team as a coordinator and bringing everything he learned in Dallas under Mike McCarthy, I think is just positive for the Chargers offensively. Defensively, I think I've got all kinds of reservations.
Well, do you think Kellen Moore brings in an offensive playbook that's going to be dramatically different than last year? So it's going to take a while for these players to kind of ramp up?
They're going to add some stuff with different types of route trees they run. This is what I was told. I don't think the terminology is going to change, but he got hired so early in the process that he's almost lived with Justin Herbert at the facility, that he said that we both put things into the new Charger playbook. And some of it was what he did well and really liked. Some of it was what we saw in video, how he linked up with the receivers and the different routes. And some of it was my stuff that came from Dallas and the route trees and how we build what we run, whether that's throw deep, throw slants, throw outs, run the ball, play action, throw to the backs, different use of the tight ends. So you got bright minds. I mean, Kellen Moore's a bright mind. No doubt Justin Herbert is brilliant, maybe bleeping brilliant. So I think offensively the Chargers are going to be good. So I won't subscribe to what he said about another one-and-done guy who's cheap or failed. Kellen Moore's not failed.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see how this all turns out. I mean, they're getting ready for camps here pretty soon.
End of July.
Yeah, it's coming fast. Okay, here's a comment from Manny. He says, do you think that today's NBA draft will be a quiet one, or are there going to be multiple trades?
Rumor mill is trades everywhere. Off the top of my head, are the Clippers going to trade Paul George? Off the top of my head. Is New Orleans going to trade Brandon Ingram? Off the top of my head. Is New Orleans going to trade Zion Williamson? Off the top of my head. How's Miami going to go get a third star when everybody now has stars? Off the top of my head. Is Phoenix going to find a taker for DeAndre Ayton? Off the top of my head. What Portland said last night, does it stay in effect with Damian Lillard? Will he get traded? Off the top of my head, these rumors that are flying out of Madison Square Garden that they might trade Julius Randle or they might trade their former number pick Obi Toppin. Are those kind of deals happen? So that's just up here, what I recall from what I wrote down that could happen. And I mean, we've seen 3 big trades so far in the last week. I mean, the Brad Beal deal from Washington to Phoenix, the Washington deal late last night that sent Kristaps Porzingis to Boston, which I think was a hell of a transaction. And now the third deal that just happened as we were taking the air Thursday is the Chris Paul deal to Golden State. That's 3. there could be 5 more involving named players. And I don't if the Clippers trade Paul George, wow, we're gonna have something to talk about in bonus coverage on Monday. Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, the NBA draft and all the drafts are just a lot of fun. You know, you get all the guys out there, the analysts, and they're talking about what's going to happen, the rumors they're hearing. So it's going to be a lot of fun tonight.
On we go. Got a couple more questions here, and then we'll get to social media.
Yeah, this is from Emmanuel. He says, who remains as manager of their respective teams next year? Bob Melvin or Dave Roberts? Both teams are struggling.
Both stay.
Yeah.
Now, Melvin and hitting coaches and front office and analytic people, they better figure out why these guys aren't hitting back to their career numbers. I mean, these numbers are really grossly down. If a guy's hurt and Bogarts is banged up, I understand why he's hitting 190 in the last month because of the wrist. But I have no understanding why Soto's not hitting 290 in Petco Park and why Manny is having the worst year of his career. I don't understand what's happened to Cronenworth, except scouting reports maybe have figured him out. But it is a funk that is really bad. But I don't think that they're going to hit the eject button on Bob Melvin. And I think Dave Roberts is safe. Dave Roberts has got the highest winning percentage of any Dodger manager in history. That includes Tommy Lasorda. That includes back in the day, Smokey Alston. But he's been beset by all these arm problems that they have. But yet the thing with the Dodgers is, parked over here in this right parking space next to the parking meter, they got all these live young arms that they're sampling out of Oklahoma City. And as long as those guys don't break down, they got more guys coming. And there's no doubt the Dodger veterans are just hitting the hell out of the ball, home runs, especially the top of the batting order. So I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think any of those guys are in jeopardy. But if A.J. Preller were to hit the eject button on Bob Melvin, if this turns out to be a non-playoff season, there might be some screeching and howling in San Diego. And I'll say this, and I like A.J., and he grew up next to the town that I grew up on Long Island, so we joke about it all the time. But if you fire this manager after the last 3 managers that you hired and you fired, do you think Padre fan can trust you to hire the next guy as the right guy? Because Melvin, Tingler, Andy Green, and the way they treated Bud Black, those are all his decisions. So there'll be some accountability if this doesn't work out. Like you say, we got 100+ games to go in a season, but like I said, they got to pass a lot of teams to be a wild card team.
We're fickle as fans, aren't we? You know, because
you are. I don't know about me. I don't know what descriptive adjective or adverb you use to describe my style, but
we want results, you know, and we're frustrated as fans, and we just want to point the finger at someone and say that's the reason that they're not winning. But when Bob Melvin was hired, it was like the Padres hired, I don't know, the best possible manager they could have.
Well, he was accomplished, and I remember one of the first podcasts we did, one of my phrases was, there's nothing that's going to happen to him here in San Diego that he has never, ever seen before. I mean, because he's been through adversity. He's been through teams who had good payrolls and failed. He's been through the horrors of working with the Oakland Athletics and no money, no running water in the stadium and all that razzmatazz. Now, maybe he's never had a stretch where he's had as many big money, big time productive players not play well. Maybe this is challenging his soul right now. But I thought it was the right hire because he's experienced so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the clubhouse. I mean, what's your sense of what's going on behind closed doors? Do you think there's any bad juju, bad chemistry going on?
One of my biggest fears, and I witnessed this firsthand because I'm in that clubhouse all the time. I witnessed this firsthand when AJ came here and he made all those wild deals at the first winter baseball meetings when it was held downtown at the convention center. And he brought in all these guys, all these name guys who had success. He paid a price to get them. And he paid them a price to play here. And they didn't pan out. And I got a sense, because I was in that clubhouse a lot, they became independent contractors. Hey, I got my money. Did you get yours? Well, I'm getting paid on the 1st and 15th of every month. Well, if we don't win, I'm still getting paid on the 1st and 15th. That's what really bothered me about the Matt Kemp, Justin Upton, Melvin Upton consortium. It really bothered me. It pissed me off to have to deal with these guys and listen to the junk they were saying when I didn't see the passion to be a leader, etc. So it's a tough call. I hope this group does not flip into that. But I do get an uncomfortable feeling, and I talk to other baseball people that say they've underachieved because a bunch of them don't really feel the need to do it because they already got their contract. And that's a horrible thing to say. I hope it's not true.
Yeah, I hope not either. But, maybe they're thinking, hey, he makes all these deals to get new guys in, but he's also sending guys out. So maybe they could feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe not as valued on a human level. I mean, certainly they're getting valued in terms of their paycheck.
Hey, you can't trade guys on 10, 11, and 14-year contracts who are in the Padre batting order now.
Yeah, you can't.
This is what you have, and this is what you're going to be stuck with and have to live through. Damn, they better start winning. Okay, let's move on. You got a couple other things here you want to go on social media.
Yeah, we do. Got some good social media comments here. And let's go here. This is a Bob Huggins comment from Film at 11 on Instagram. Huggins has a huge ego. Ain't nobody talking him into rehab until he himself is ready to go.
Well, he has to look in the mirror and admit he has an alcohol problem. And anybody that does a 0.21 blood alcohol count has got an alcohol problem. He's got an addiction. And if he refuses to see it, then his career is over. I would have hoped, and John and I talked about this after the first incident a month plus ago in Cincinnati, the radio interview, that he went off on a really bad, ugly tangent. And I kept saying, who the hell says stuff like that in public? And I remember saying, maybe he needs to be evaluated for a substance problem. And it was a substance problem because you don't blow 2.21 unless you're really sick. My only point being, and I said last week that, maybe one of his former players, and he was really close to Nick Van Exel, the Laker guard, and Kenyon Martin, who played up in Denver. Maybe one of them can step forward. Say, I care about you, coach, because you impacted my life. I care about you. We think you need to go to rehab and go intensive rehab, and intensive rehab works if Bob Huggins is committed to work it. So does he have an ego? Yeah, as a hell of a lot of guys got ego, but obvious to me, he's got a terrible substance abuse problem. It's sad because I've known him since 1980.
Well, isn't it interesting how so many college head coaches become like father figures for their players? And there's this amazing love that can exist. And it would be kind of special to see it turn the other way, where that love was redirected to Huggins. Because, yeah, he clearly needs some help.
And obviously, he did not get guidance, nor did he get pressure from the athletic director or the president, Dr. Gordon G. at West Virginia, because they could have stepped in if they perceived. And how could you be around him and understand everything that was going on in that program and not see how he acted or how he treated people, or not understand alcoholism? Because that's part of your job as the head of the athletic department or the university, is to help solve whatever problems develop. And everywhere, I don't care where you are, there are problems within everybody's athletic department: social, physical, mental, psychological, substance abuse problems. As an AD or as a president of a university, the CEO of the school, you need to be able to guide somebody if you find that they've really fallen off the track.
Yeah, it's a shame. So let's move on here. We got some more social media comments. This one's an Instagram comment from Daniel Alexis talking about the NFL gambling problem. Hey, they've been ignoring illegal substances for years. Steroids, HGH. They ignored brain trauma for decades. They have ignored having lawbreakers in the league for years. I'm sure they're going to sweep this under the rug.
I don't know that they'll sweep it under the rug, because they are really taking proactive moves. At the just completed OTAs, they had a league official meet with every roster player in a group team meeting, and they ran a video, and they came up with 6 key points that they presented every players about what you can do and what you cannot do. And that includes not being part of sports books. That includes not betting from the facility or anything while you're with the team. and obviously not betting on NFL games. So I think each thing carries a different agenda. You have to deal with the Players Association too. You just can't mandate this law. That's why there was a long time for them to get in the collective bargaining agreement drug testing, blood testing for HGH. They had to really negotiate the extensive amount of discipline they would hand out to players as it relates to guns, domestic abuse, really bad stuff. I think the league ignored concussions for a long time, and I will go to my grave. I firmly believe a couple of doctors of teams who knew what was going on found their conscience, and they're the ones that I think there is a paper trail about the NFL covering up potential brain damage with concussions, and these doctors went and I think provided information to the union, which led to the lawsuit, which led to the wake up in the morning one day and there's an $875 million payout for concussions to players. So the league's been dragged into some of it. The other of it's been dragged out because it has to go through the union and it's got to be a joint decision there. So it's a complicated answer, but I think the league is doing much better now, taking care of the players they have to, because the league is not Roger Goodell. I'm sorry. The league is not Spanos. The league is not Robert Kraft. The league is the Tom Brady's of the world, which the fans identify with. So you got to protect them and you got to guide them and you have to discipline some of them along the way.
Well, considering your long history as an NFL broadcaster and doing all the, in sports for decades, have you ever gotten a whiff that some games are fixed or that there's been some funny business going on?
No, not at all. You would never go there because why would anybody do that? Why would you put your career and your contract in jeopardy? Why would the league ever sanction anything like that? No, not at all. You think back a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago, how aghast we were when we found out there was an NBA referee, Tim Donaghy, that was betting on games with, quote, inside information. That, and the league responded really quickly to that. So now these are young, stupid guys who got a lot of time on their hands. They got a lot of jack in their pockets and looking to do something and make mistakes. They won't make mistakes now because the league sent a different executive into every one of the 32 camps last week, and they held seminars with the players. The players now know what the rule is and now know what the penalty will be. And we're not done with this league pro because I think it's tip of the iceberg. I think some more junk is going to show up.
Yeah, so I guess they're now the law, right?
Yeah,
I am the law.
Exactly.
Okay, here's another comment here. This is about PGA LIV. The war is over from Pinkalicious. He says, sorry, Smacksaw. The PGA Tour did not win. They look like hypocrites, and their players are livid. The real winners are the LIV and the Saudis because they made the PGA Tour cave in and blink first. Fact is, the PGA Tour lied to the fans and the public about their principles and took the money anyway. They will lose fans and viewers because they are now sleeping with the enemy, the boogeyman they were telling everyone about. They made their bed and now they have to lie in it. Hope that blood money is worth it.
My goodness. If you have a tough time hanging with your friends, they start calling you pink. I totally disagree. LIV, $3 billion. That's what they had to pay to, quote, get into the fraternity with the PGA. What's the end result? Greg Norman's not running it. The Saudi fund is not running the new global PGA. NUCO, the company that's being formed, will be run by PGA executives. And they'll plant their flag in every event in every market. It will be a PGA event, and LIV will have been good for the players because the guys that they bribed to come get to keep the first year of money, and the guys that didn't come, the McElroys of the world, they're going to get rewarded because they're going to get, quote, loyalty bonuses as part of the NUCO operation. Pink, that's my explanation.
I mean, what else can you say? I think the proof will be in the pudding when these executives come together. We see what this NUCO is about, see what the players feel about it all. Hopefully they find a way to make it come together.
Okay, you got one more good note here, one more item on Fans Forum.
This is an interesting one to me because I know you run these Twitter polls, and I think they're great. And one of them you dropped out there says, do you like the Ghost Runner at second base to start extra inning games? And the fans pretty much 2-1 don't like the Ghost Runner.
That's interesting. I like the Ghost Runner because it creates opportunity for strategy. Put the ball in play. And, with the wear and tear factor on pitching staffs, you can't have a 15-inning game. It destroys your pitching staff. And arms are so fragile now in the game. I think the most of the people like it. USA Today just ran a poll, came out on Wednesday. They interviewed 100 of the top names in baseball and asked them about the new rules that have been instituted, the shift, the ghost runner, the pitch clock. And the poll was like 5-1 in favor of the new rules, because I think it protects the players. I think it obviously speeds up the game, which is good. And I think there's a lot more strategy. And I'll tell you, starting with a guy at second base in the 10th inning or the 11th inning or the 12th inning, yeah, there's pretty good pressure points there as to what you're going to do and how do your pitcher handle it. And maybe I'm in the minority, but I tend to think I like what they've done to the game.
Yeah, I like the rules. I think this is a good rule, because I remember, now this is kind of a crazy comparison, but when my daughter was playing softball, they used to play this way. They called it the international tiebreaker, where when in extra innings, they put a runner at second. And back then, I mean, granted, we're dealing with 10 and 12-year-old girls, but the first play they would always do is they'd lay down a bunt and advance that runner from second to third. You rarely see that in Major League Baseball. And sometimes I wonder if they really should do that, just to try to advance the runner, because anything can happen to get that runner coming home from third. But it seems like a lot of the testosterone kicks in, and these guys all want to hit a bomb, and they're swinging for the fences rather than playing small ball.
Yeah. And they'll try to evolve the game. Now we've just come through really bad experiences with catchers blocking the baseline and the interpretation. Geez. And don't get me started on that. Although I tend to think that what goes around comes around, because I happen to think in the Padres-Tampa Bay game over the weekend when Manny Margot got taken out at home plate, it sure looked like Nola was really blocking the plate before the ball got there, and they never called it. Right. And then this interpretation of the rule in the Giant game, I thought was so far-fetched, because the runner was so far up the line, and then the ball got there, and here's the catcher just waiting to apply the tag. I don't know that Sanchez was blocking it. Was his foot over the line, waiting for the ball? Yeah. But the runner was, I swear, John, was 15 feet up the baseline. Yeah. And the alternative, as I saw in a White Sox game early in the week, John, you're going to stand in front of home plate and block me? I'm going to bulldoze you. Now, I might get hurt doing it, but I'm going to knock the ball and knock you into next week, and I'm going to touch the plate. Now, guys, they don't want guys doing that because of the severity of the injuries. I mean, this whole rule kind of came to be because of Buster Posey's very bad ankle injury years and years ago that knocked him out for a whole year. But I think I like the bulk of the rules. But hey, you could tell me I'm wrong, but don't argue with me. I'm a talk show host.
Yeah, that was awful last night when that call was made, because to your point, he was up the line. The whole point of the rule is to protect the catcher, because they don't want a Pete Rose, Ray Fosse incident at home plate. But sure enough, San Diego sports curse kicks in. That run scores. Next two guys get base hits. I mean, that should have been a 2-1 Padre victory. It ended up being a 4-2 loss.
Yeah, the interpretation of the rule, there's a gray area there that I didn't buy. But I think for the most part, the rules have really added zest to the games. And a guy out at second base in the 10th inning, I buy that. Hey, listen, we hope you